Welcome back, my dear viewers, our dear viewers. It's Levi Lalone and Sam Tate here, and we're super pumped up to bring you guys the first round of the Top 32 cut, day 2 of the first ever Pro Hero National Tournament, and we've got something so cool today. Lay it on them, Sam.
We've got a matchup that we just talked about. It is the meta call. It's Midnight versus Kirishima 2. Ooh. We've got Pippa playing Midnight, which is, you know, the Heroes Clash darling with the somnambulism.
Oh, absolutely.
And then we've got David Pena, a mainstay on this Kirishima. David Pena almost didn't make this event. He's really high on the RLE points list, and he made sure to schedule that time to make it out here to keep that dream alive. And here's David Pena's chance to just straight up punch that ticket, not even worry about the points.
Wow, that's so intense. Because at this point, like, I mean, if David can make this, he potentially gets his top points anyway, so he doesn't even have to win another one. He doesn't even have top 8. But Pippa nowhere near on the points list, definitely has to lock this up and continue winning fourth to secure that world spot. Obviously, a lot on the line. The narrative is beginning to construct itself. This is a character that I know Pippa has been really big on for quite a while now. We've definitely seen her in quite a lot of events, and I think the Heroes Clash support is what finally pushed her to really bring this character into the competitive limelight.
Yeah, if you hung out on the socials, if you're a Discord member, you might have seen some of Pippa's brews.
Absolutely.
Pippa is a well-known deck builder, but I believe this is their first time in Top Cuts for a major event like this, so it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. I know that Midnight is, again, a very slept-on character, but you cannot deny the raw power that Heroes Clash has provided this character.
Undeniably. And Pippa's deck is very spicy.
And maybe more importantly, Midnight gets to go first. Midnight, the top seed in this matchup.
Correct. Yes. So really big plays there. And if you're familiar with David Pena at all, I mean, if you're familiar with this game's competitive scene, you have to be familiar with David Pena. He has topped almost every single event he's been to, and it's quite a lot of them. The main outlier here is David Pena has always been a huge big fan of Ochako 2. I think he got like 6 or 7 top cuts with that character throughout the entirety of the competitive season 1 and the competitive season 2. But now the Ochako 2 master, we're finally seeing him shift. This is a pretty recent shift as of I want to say the Toronto regional was the first time we saw him finally forbidding the Ochako 2 and getting on the Kirishima 2 train, which is something we've talked about a lot in today already and yesterday in a lot of these top players, even though they have decks that they're really fluent with and really known for, shifting and pivoting towards Kirishima for that raw power level that he provides.
Yep, and here's one of the best cards I think Midnight has gotten from Heroes Clash. It is Command Pigeon Flock.
Oh, yes.
The Coda attack. It's a 5 difficulty attack. It's 4 high for 5. And on top of its solid stats, you get to build an ally foundation from your discard pile for free?
For free. So I mean, obviously the decks, the players here are very interesting. The characters here are very interesting. The decks as well are also very interesting. I mean, David Pena is playing Earth Kirishima 2. So far we've kind of just seen a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing throughout the tournament. A lot of the good Earth stables, a lot of the good Earth foundations. Nothing too crazy going on there just yet, as far as we can tell. But Pippa's deck is an amalgamation of interesting things. We've got the good Chaos charge attacks. We've got a lot of the base good Chaos defense levels things. We have the Command Pigeon Flocks, the Ally Foundation pools. We've got Summon Dark Shadows. I think our first 2 checks were Summon Dark Shadows. I know for a fact there are also Evil versus Good in Pippa's list because she's also playing Dark Shadow Ruin. There are a lot of crazy cool things going on with this deck. We did not sadly have Pippa on stream yesterday, even though she was floating around top tables quite a bit. We simply didn't get the chance to, but I did get to peruse and watch quite a few of her games, and there's some very wild things going on with this deck.
Yeah, we see the command pigeon flock just dealing 3 damage there, bringing Kirishima down to 24, but importantly, banking that momentum for later. The chaos symbol loves momentum. It loves to spend that momentum. And on the flip side, Kirishima opens with back alley haymaker, the most common opener, I think, in our game.
Yeah, a big thing too here, right, about the momentum is, I mean, we checked a home run comment just a little bit ago. I know we have ice storms in this deck. There are definitely momentum outs. Like you said, Chaos loves their momentum. But there's also, as interesting as this Midnight deck is, and as interesting as this Kirishima deck is, there's probably a very, very big elephant in the room interaction between these two decks, and it's kind of why Midnight is seen as such like an anti-meta rogue pick right now, and that is the somnambulism we've been talking about, her ultra rare, allowing her to commit her rival's character. Kirishima has no playable while committed abilities, and his best ability requires committing him as a cost. Committing your rival's character is like the anti-meta strat right now, right?
Yeah, we see the other power that Midnight really has into this format is Back Alley Haymaker has 4 keywords. That's -4 speed. Most Midnight players I've talked to, even before set 3, feel immune to this attack. As long as you have a mid block in hand, it's pretty much always getting tagged.
Absolutely. I mean, under Chaos, you've got one of the coolest mid blocks in the world, Ice Storm, right? Breaker 2. We didn't see it come down right here, unfortunately.
And Cheerful Uppercut, another amazing Chaos mid block.
Excellent point there, Sam. Yeah, I mean, Cheerful Uppercut, a card that saw some insane mileage in yesterday's stream against that Keenan Meadows, Kyle Wright fight that we talked so highly about, stuffing cards into the card pool, really ruining the chains and slowing down the aggression of so many of these decks that just want to go super fast into you. If anything, one of the only equalizers against the insane levels of Midnight speed reduction we have here is David's got 2 copies of One with Nature on his board.
Did he just discard a card for One with Nature?
I believe so.
We're trying to force this one through. Everything's tapped out. I mean, it's 0 speed, but now +2 to that block mod. We might fail this block.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a +1 best case scenario mid block in our hand. That's now a +3 on a 3/4. We can check a 3 and fail it.
Second one with Nature.
Yeah, now we actually just can't pass this block unless we've got a unless we've got a buddy block. Actually, that's the only way. This does not get it in good. So we're gonna finally land some damage on Midnight.
But a heavy cost, discarding 2 cards from a hand. Kirishima plays pretty good with nothing in hand, but at the same time, you cannot disrespect this Midnight offense.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if Pippa just throws down a somnambulism right here, like, David could lose. David could absolutely lose this turn if somnambulism comes down.
An important note, though, we do have a Campy fix, which does respond to any card being committed.
That's very interesting.
So you can build an additional foundation, which is not really compensation for losing your character, of course, but that is something I've seen players miss on both sides of the table more than once.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, that just goes to show how much this game hasn't really seen a whole lot of committing your rival's character. You know, the only real big thing doing that before was Blood Curdle, which was not a card that really saw much widespread play back in set 2.
Yeah, it was widely theorized, but at the same time, the Momo format that everyone wanted the Blood Curdle for, by the time you could pay that extra foundation commit cost, Momo was usually pretty set up. It wasn't exactly the speediest card that you needed. Somnambulism, you can just jam that on a 5 whenever you need to.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that helped Blood Curdle back was like the symbol spread, right? The only real Order character that wanted to jam Blood Curdles was like Fourth Kind, and the only real Void character that wanted to do it was like Eraserhead. 2 decks that like Fourth Kind fell off very hard back last format, and then Eraserhead is always kind of a back and forth pick depending on how you're feeling about playing him.
Speaking about
Somnambulism, though, man. Whew.
Speaking about back and forth, this is the 3rd back alley haymaker.
Yeah. David lives in the alleys. David lives in the back alleys, man. That man is out here to make hay.
But if we don't make any progress this turn, right? If we don't get really significant damage in, then our best opener and our EX closer, we're only gonna have 1 copy left in our deck until we cycle. So Pippa may be able to just weather the back alley storm by giving these all -4 speed and blocking them out early.
Yeah, I mean we are essentially, these back alleys all just say tell Pippa to commit 3 foundations and give us a card in her hand. And that's pretty much as far as they're getting, which I mean is not bad, right, for an attack. It's like the thing about how good stun is right here is that when the attacks are all just so slow, the stun is actually letting us still commit foundations.
Yeah, but we do see the celebrity status coming down to put that one on top, and then we get to recycle one of those back alleys. So effectively, we had 5 in our deck this game.
Absolutely, yeah, and again, the second instance of stun going to be really, really big too if we jam this, because these moves without stun, we are never committing cards to block these moves. We are never committing more than just the one we're committing for Midnight's in hands, right? It's just not happening. So
especially now that we have release on board, after those foundations get stunned down after we commit them with Midnight, we'll get even more value to fight against that one with nature.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So these stuns right here are putting a lot of work in actually progressing the committal of Pippa's board so that we can maybe eventually throw down a different move that can get some damage in, because these back alleys definitely aren't going to do it, but they are going to eat up the board and eat up cards in hand. Speaking of eating up cards in hand,
so this is an interesting one. Hardened Chop was a card that was hotly contested toward the end of Set 2's format. It was really interesting what people valued, because a lot of those characters could play without cards in hand, similar to, Kirishima 2 was relevant, Momo was relevant, things like that, the life symbol passing the torch. Stuff like that was making Hardened Chop not look super important, but we saw this card do work all day yesterday. Is it going to pay off today?
Yeah, I mean, David is looking to get some payoff from this card for sure. Discarding for one with nature, responding for both instances of +1 damage. This is now a 7 damage Hardened Chop. That's a really, really big move. We've only got 19 life. 7 damage is not an amount I'm keen on taking here. Now, I will say, if we do have the low block here, we can very much afford to low block it, discard, go to 0 cards in hand, and then if David jams that next back alley haymaker in his hand, we can simply flip our struggling with studies and pick up our requesting assistance again.
And if you're not afraid of seizing the advantage immediately, in a pinch, you can use that chivalrous competitor to draw 1 card, but of course, your rival will get to draw 1 as well, so not something you want to fire off willy-nilly.
Yeah, and see, normally investing in a play like that, right, would be risky, because what happens when we block the Hardened Chop, go to 0 in hand, then David forms, seizing the advantage, flips our struggling, and then plays our move. We can no longer pick up our requesting assistance. But one of the strongest things about the Chaos symbol is that we have Chivalrous Competitor and Struggling with Studies to protect any of our foundations back and forth. So there's the aforementioned good versus evil coming in. Does sport a low block, so we're going to get to perfect block this and discard our last card. And now we are sitting there saying, yeah, David, play your back alley haymaker. Play it. Do it.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite cards from Heroes Clash.
Absolutely. Good versus evil. Such an interesting card.
I love cancels. Pretty much every cancel is a response, aside from like Lessons from Taiyaki, which is a super interesting card.
Correct.
And this cancels most cancels. And so you can get into really interesting wars over resources because of a card like Good and Evil. And then on top of that, it's similar to Summon Dark Shadow, where it makes your next attack easier and more potent.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, giving a -2 difficulty, I believe, while at the cost of putting one thing in your card pool, if you're on a Dark Shadow Ruin turn, you actually are getting the full value of that -2 difficulty, and we're seeing so much value from it here.
And possibly a big reason why we're seeing that Chaos Tokoyami shift. But shifting back to this game, back alley haymaker, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah, but there's the Struggling with Studies coming in to bring our requesting back up. But it looks like, yeah, I mean, David definitely saw the requesting in pools, saw the struggling, knew that Pippa was getting her mid block back, and I think we're maybe just going to so hard commit to these one with natures that we're going to try to force this damage in either way. But I mean, between a release, it's hard to say. The -4 speed from Midnight, I mean, our requesting is already a +2 mid block. David could discard 1 card, make it a +4. We're still only blocking on a 5, right? And we have release. I mean, this is just getting super blocked, right? There's no world where it does not.
You have to go through these resources eventually, right?
For sure.
You cannot let Midnight just sculpt and sculpt, because Midnight can discard their hand and draw as many cards as they want, right? They're going to be able to sculpt if you just let them free build against you.
Right.
And you have to get through the Struggling with Studies. You have to go through it eventually. And with that Chivalrous Competitor on board, you don't get to just wait until you draw seizing the advantage. You have to make these plays now. You have to progress the board state, even if it even if it looks like a bad play, we got good and evil out of their hand, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean that's the cost that it comes at, right? Though is like we saw to be able to play 3 attacks, discard cards for 1 with nature, actually deal no damage, get through a couple resources, but at the end of the day, not be able to progress his own board state as well. So at the end of it all, Pippa's still finding very very good exchange rates throughout her rivals' attack turns, which is just very strong. You know, we saw David commit 3 cards, commit a celebrity status play, a Kirishima play, and discard cards for 1 with nature, and result in nothing. We flipped a struggling with studies. That was the entire result of our attack turn. And now Pippa's in a really good position to try and swing back and put some damage on board, some real serious damage on board.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? The Dark Shadow Ruin has typically been exclusively for Tokoyami, but Tokoyami's not the only character that's playable while committed on those symbols. Tokoyami's not the only character who can make use of actions on those symbols. And also, Dark Shadow Ruin has Breaker. It's just an all-around amazing card. But most importantly, it's got a ton
there's
of
our Dark Shadow. So, like, obviously, you know, the big thing, right? Nothing on Dark Shadow says, hey, only Tokoyami can play this card.
Right.
Dark Shadow is a very, very fluent card, especially in tandem with the Ruin. You know, it's a whole package that's very, very flexible. The real big draw, right, is you need all of these cards to come together to get the full use out of it. That's where Tokoyami comes in, letting you search for Dark Shadow all the time. However, when it comes to searching for cards, Midnight is no slouch. Being able to mulligan as many cards as you want to go and look for whatever you want is so powerful and can result in you doing a really, really cool and intricate Tokoyami impression here.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see if at any point Pippa does discard their whole hand to draw a whole new hand, because the Midnight mid-game mulligan is one of my favorite plays in Universes.
It's a really, really, really amazing level of flexibility. I think we discarded 3 for 3 on that Midnight commit there, and it's definitely paying off because now we've got our Summon Dark Shadow. It looks like we didn't open a Somnambulism. Maybe it's in our hand now because I think we would have jammed that as the first move all day. But also, you don't necessarily want to jam Somnambulism as the first move all day, because the big thing about Somnambulism is that it wants multiple keywords in the card pool from other attacks to get its enhanced to draw 2 cards, discard a card as well.
And you know what's super interesting about Summon Dark Shadow? It adds that keyword count.
It does.
Typically, Midnights are playing all 3 keyword attacks,
right?
And things like that,
as fast as possible.
Yeah, and you get to that 6 really easily. But if you ever do need that help, depending on what Pippa is running, Summon Dark Shadow, adding to keyword counts, being an ally card for this ally package, that could become relevant.
Yeah, I mean, things get very scary here, right? As David, you really got to think now. Okay, Pippa's gone through the mulligan. Right, there could be a Somnambulism in that hand. Do I need to use Kirishima as much as I can right now? Is he going to get committed on this next move? Because like, there's got to be a next move coming. Our next check has +3. Our Summon Dark Shadow is not counted as progressive. You know, I mean, so this is a block on an 11. I want to say pulling up punches is a 2 high block. So
yes.
This should be on an 11. I mean, this is the power, right, of the Dark Shadow package in a character like Midnight, is that while Tokoyami gets to put damage on damage on damage on damage and find his Dark Shadows effortlessly, Midnight gets to put a boat ton of speed on Ruin.
This fails, right? We checked a 4. We'd have to commit 7. That includes our character.
Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to do that.
You fail this and you search for other better blocking opportunities, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's such a tough decision because you're going down to 14.
So I think what you do is you fail this and then you Kirishima response, right?
Oh, I don't know. This is such a tough decision. I don't know what I would do.
I mean, what's going to get bigger than 10, right? A 1.3 million? That's kind of the only thing that's going to get much bigger than 10. And if we've got a low block ahead, we can just block it, right?
Right. I think that's what he's looking for right now.
Yeah, he's saying what's going to get scarier. Yeah.
The biggest thing to me is if, without knowing what's in David's hand, the enhances might be super relevant. The enhance to destroy one of those committed, replace it for the indiscriminate, right? Find a better block. That might be something he wants to have the opportunity to do, but I think I'm with you. I think since we
have to.
Yeah, I think failing this block, it looks like he's already decided to fail it, but we're deciding to respond with Kirishima.
100%, yeah. And I think you have to also the main factor
of that Somnambulism.
Yeah, because of Somnambulism. If you don't, and then Pippa jams a Somnambulism on her next move, you
got to feel like it's over.
You're just gonna die, man.
Because
you just gonna die.
Something that's really important too. Pippa has triple 1 with nature.
Yep.
any moment, they can discard one card and get 3 damage for it.
Yep.
Everything
is already
you're basically Deco 2 at that point.
Yeah, I mean, our moves all have an on-demand +4 damage right now, right? Because of our Summon Dark Shadow and our one with Natures. And that's not even counting, like, you know, what they actually are doing on their own, right? Chaos attacks get very, very big, very, very fast. Opting not to Kirishima respond. If we jam some Nambulism here, we're legends.
That'd be the greatest thing of all time.
That's pretty close. Second Ruin's not bad.
When the first Ruin hits, it's a pretty good play to jam a second
Ruin's
one.
not bad, though. Oh, it's not bad, though.
I think this one is guaranteed to hit. Like, with the one with Natures that are out, with how low David has gotten, the idea that we can't pump this up to at least force Kirishima to commit on this,
I mean,
that seems it seems unlikely that we don't force Kirishima to respond on this one.
I mean, yeah, right. Like if David's going to block this one, if David's going to attempt to block this one, it has to be because like he knows he's able to block it.
Earth Symbol doesn't have very many playable 6s, right? You'd have to be bloody blocking, and so we couldn't block the last one because we checked a 4, and now we are going to get one additional resource, but I have to imagine this one's going to be faster.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going to commit to this one, right? Yeah. Earth used to have one very playable 6, but that was a very different era, Sensei.
Okay.
That was a very, very different era, my friend.
There is a very big difference between a playable and 2 playable. Forced playable.
2 playable always could be a word, but man, this Ruin is, I mean, again, the power of Dark Shadow Ruin and Midnight. Ruin is known for being this, you know, this 10, 11, 12 plus damage move, but it usually doesn't get much scarier than like a 5 high in Tokoyami, unless you're starting to go crazy with your Dark Shadows. But here, we're looking at it as essentially a base 8 damage move, and the evil versus good coming in on the
that one's only on a 4,
only on a 4. We check a 3.
We're killing Kirishima this turn.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we're dead.
That's an aggressive commit, and there's something really important. We haven't even used this yet. There is a Friend of Animals sitting there. When you commit Friend of Animals during the enhanced step, that gives +2 speed to your attack, and Pippa is still sitting on that. That means we have an even better move that we're waiting to put stats on.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like really loco plays right now, man. This is just the power of these crazy action chains. And I mean, as much as like I like to refer to combo decks that want to find these insane specific strings of turns as like a magical Christmas land game state, you know? But Midnight makes that so much easier because effectively, if you want, you get to go through like 12 cards, right? And that's very powerful, and leads to you being able to assemble some nutty strings like this. The Friend of Animals tech is very cool. I've seen a lot of the good symbol All Might 3 players adapting that as well to commit for speed.
So this attack is currently at 13 damage, right? It got 3 from itself. It got 1 from Summon Dark Shadow. That puts it at 9 damage. And we've gotten a bunch from Summon Dark Shadow and our one with Natures. This is one-off lethal. So we don't have to necessarily force anything theoretically, but man, you can't go to 1 in this matchup, can you?
I don't think so.
Especially with -2 to the next attack.
No, I think you have to just Kirishima response this one, and then hope that without that debuild, you can stop the next one. So this is this is super
on a
passing.
5.
Super passing. Yep.
It's on a 5. It's gonna get so much speed. It's gonna actually stun down 2 foundations. It's gonna be for a shimillion damage, and we're gonna discard the last card in our hand for the one with Nature. I think this is game, partner.
Yeah, this is feeling very unblockable. I mean, yeah, it's got what +4 speed on it in total. It's gonna come in with 1. It's gonna get 3 from Midnight, 2 from Friend of Animals. So that's gonna be at like 9 speed, effectively 11 with the one with Nature. If we have a 1 low and check a 5, we could block this, I think. Nope, we can't. Nope.
We'd have to have a 0 low and check a 6.
Yep. The Friend of Animals tech coming in really hot there to make this a super duper unblockable move.
Pippa pressing all the buttons, leaving nothing on the table, using every card in their hand, showing exactly how powerful Midnight is in this Heroes Clash format. Pippa said, I'm not scared of Kirishima. There is no menace.
Zero fear. I didn't even have to commit your character. I didn't even have to some name I didn't have to. You weren't worth putting to sleep, buddy. You weren't worth putting to sleep. Oh, the 3 low.
Absolutely
on
not.
a 15.
Yeah, we were just curious what the top card of our deck is.
Super duper curious.
It's an untimed round. We don't have to scoop yet.
For sure. We get to have some laughs. I mean, these are both really notable names. Probably quite familiar with each other. We're definitely having some laughs and some joy in this matchup.
I'm not. If I'm David Pena, I'm upset.
Yeah,
because I would expect Midnight would have to commit me to kill me, and Pippa said no. I have every number available. Every single card in Pippa's stage, aside from possibly Release, was giving and even Release gives fake stats the same way that One with Nature does, right?
Yes.
Reducing block mods and things like that, bonuses to checks. Everything in Pippa's stage was adding to attacks or subtracting from attacks. There was so many numbers. It was absolutely overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the coolest things about the Chaos symbol right now is you can formulate a stage that's so offensive and so defensive at the same time, right? The One with Nature is coming in to pump damage. The releases coming in to plus your block checks. There's just so many tricks that you have with a symbol like Chaos. I think Chaos has always been on the precipice of being that good, and it's been slowly working its way there and there and there and there. And now Heroes Clash has really brought it full circle. Especially with characters, right? It being the preferred symbol now on Tokoyami, always a very relevant character. Midnight, always being a solid, strong Chaos character, now finally seeing the card she needs to be super relevant. As we can see here her just really beating the brakes off of Kirishima. I don't want to pay any insult to David's play, of course, but man, that was a mollywhopping.
Right. There's no blatant mistakes from David,
Zero
right?
mistakes.
He was trying to push the game plan. He did commit some resources to try and progress that board state. But again, what are you going to do? You're going to let Pippa draw more chivalrous competitors? You're going to let Pippa draw more struggling with studies, right? You can't let these things just get out of hand. Even an additional block there or taking one less attack, surviving to the next turn. If Pippa is still sitting on all these powerful defensive tools that you didn't go through, still giving your Haymakers -4 speed, and you don't have any momentum to use with them, you're not really getting anywhere.
No,
you're just
not.
taking more damage.
We finally saw one of the many strengths of Back Alley Haymaker coming to bite it in the butt, being that card has a bajillion keywords on it. But
finally, someone is punishing it.
Finally,
there's a punishment for Kirishima. We missed
Pippa.
it.
Thank you, Pippa.
We missed the matchup yesterday, and we said never punish for every Kirishima, right? We started the day with Phil Birch just beating the brakes off an Asubi, giving absolutely zero care to risk reward, just saying it's all reward here. Pippa showing no, you have to be afraid of me.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're talking about punishment, there's really no character more suiting to dole it out than someone like Midnight herself, right?
the theming, the flavor of the game.
The theming. And then we have the complete opposite of that flavor, too, because Midnight is a character that puts people to sleep. But Sam Tate, I could not be more awake right now. I could not be more excited for this game. There's so many cool things happening with this deck.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if Kirishima going first changes things a lot. It didn't look like we saw a huge sideboard plan from either player, right? Not a ton of cards being moved around. So it'll be very interesting to see if there's any very obvious sideboard tech coming in.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to imagine if we're not already jamming all 4 copies of Somnambulism in our deck, we put in the remaining ones.
Yes.
We might see some Faith Shields come in to offer just a little more block leverage, because we have got a lot of scary low attacks in the Chaos deck that are just nice to be able to block without having to deal with a whole lot. I don't think that we were playing things like Double Jab Pummel, a lot of the combo cards in Chaos. I think we were just much more a value keyword package, not worrying too much about trying to combo anything specific. Dark Shadow is taking care of all the pluses to our checks. We don't need something like Pummel.
A good amount of stun we saw, right? Powering into that indiscriminate shock, things like that. Because again, a lot of these blocks for David were just one resource off.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So we probably could have blocked that very first one if we didn't tap any cards on our own turn. However, we would have been completely tapped out after that anyway.
At one point, they were killing us anyway.
Right. And then
it was going to be like 30 damage, man.
Right. So if you think about it, right, you're like, yes, you could save yourself 10 damage on that first indiscriminate, or on the first Summon Dark Shadow, right? However, you will just add 11 damage to the indiscriminate later. So
absolutely.
Pippa just putting David in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation from top to bottom.
Yeah. As far as other sideboard techs that we might see David implement to try and survive, if there's not already 4 It Can't Be Fixed in our deck, The rest are definitely coming in. We might see some resistances coming in to try and cancel some stun. You know, it's mostly stun 1 in that deck, but I mean, again, we were 1 resource off all the time. Canceling stun 1 could be the what actually gets us there. As far as other good sideboard tech on the Earth symbol, learning the standards is a very, very, very good one right there. Never a bad one to have if we're worried about just dying really, really, really early on. Maybe things like Proud Scion has been a lot of really loved Earth sideboard tech.
Ally cards, a lot of the ally cards give speed and speed penalties and bonuses, right? Like Friend of Animals at +2 speed. That's something you can just tap down at the start of the turn.
Right. I mean, we're seeing it right there, right? Friend of Animals, both of the easily excited, so we can all put down. The one main thing we can't put down with Proud Scion is One with Nature, because while One with Nature grants speed, it only does that in a sense. It does it by adding to your rival's block modifier, meaning it gets to dance around Proud Scion. I mean, just another one. Just another way. One with the layers.
The
layers. Like onions, Sam Tate. Like onions.
It's like we saw yesterday, right, with the Someone with style, where both players let it go through because it looks like a penalty. It's reducing to 0. That is penalizing speed. However, when it comes to bonuses and penalties, they have to specifically be plus a number or minus a number. And having just the phrasing, the verbiage on these cards adds so much depth to the game.
It definitely does. And it really attests to the power level of some of those cards as well. One with Nature, man, just one of the strongest cards around right now.
Yeah. It doesn't just get around plus Ultra, it also gets around Proud Scion.
It does. This is a very interesting move here. The United Arrow. I definitely saw this checked at some point in game 1. I did see him checked.
Yeah.
Didn't really circle back to it, but this is an interesting attack to play.
Have we seen a Kirishima 2 play Ignited Arrow yet?
I have not. And I've been walking around the room all weekend. Anytime I was not sitting in this chair with you casting these games, Sam, I was walking around the room watching all of these top table players play. I don't think I saw any other Kirishima decks running Ignited Arrow. So very interesting. Kind of like the Hellflame Stomp. Right, we're seeing a lot of interesting tech in some of these Kirishima decks.
Ignited Arrow, it's so important because if your rival blocks it, yes, you deal no damage most of the time. However, you do get to replace it with another attack, and I'll be honest, Ignited Arrow is a too high for 4 base. Most of the other attacks in your deck are better than it.
Yep.
But we're going to pile damage on with cards like Homage to My Hero and Kirishima Enhance, and even Talented Baker might come into play here.
Yeah, Talented Baker being one of the real standout pieces, too, that I think people haven't been talking about a lot. Just effectively being +1 speed to all your moves as Kirishima is crazy. Again, we talked about the whole weekend. The main things that Kirishima has been missing from set 3 is speed pump, right?
Yeah.
Things like Season the Advantage, One with Nature, Talented Baker, so much speed pump now.
Yeah, this is normally like a worst of both worlds situation. I was just going to comment, you almost never partial block this attack because it doesn't care about being completely blocked. So now David gets to deal damage, gets to get a momentum, and then replaced this card with another attack, which he flipped immediately off the top of his deck. I didn't get to see it. Did you see the attack he added to his hand?
I did not, no.
I want to guess it was a hardened jab, only because I saw one in his hand, I believe.
We do have a jab, yes, we do have a jab.
But the Breaker 2 might have been worth it because David immediately slaps down the Apathetic, doesn't want to check poorly into this Midnight because you have to respect this offense now.
You have to, yeah. If you, the big thing, right, that we talked about all weekend is Kirishima gets to play so greedy with a whole lot of forgiving space, right?
Never punished.
You can pass into your rival with your entire board committed out, no foundations ready, and then suddenly two enhances later, you could have 2 ready things, and then if you really can't block something, your character says to cut one attack in half for free. Very, very forgiving. But if you pass into Pippa with that board state and some Namalism comes down, you are done for. You are actually just done for. Speaking of greed, David going for some pretty crazy lines here, huh?
Yeah, one of the things I think makes Kirishima so good isn't specifically just his response when you have, no ability to defend, but the way that he can play a foundation around Breaker and then play another 4 diff on a 6 and still replace that foundation we commit. We see it here, right? We've played an attack foundation attack, which almost no character can just do for free. We've got all our foundations ready.
Yep, and we've got some good ones too. David is assembling a really strong stage here. One of the best pieces on this board really being Apathetic, right? Yeah. We were having a lot of trouble with Pippa's stage, giving us a lot of headache last round. We're gonna get to take care of a lot of that very easily with these Apathetics. Apathetic, another one of those cards that I think when Kirishima first started rising to dominance, and things like the Orlando Regional with Jacob Johnson's build, playing very, very little to no copies of Apathetic. It's a card that a lot of the Kirishimas weren't very hot on, which I was always very confused at. To be honest, I love Apathetic.
I'll say this. Every single event that a Kirishima got top 2 in, the first thing we would do is look at the deck list and go, why is there no Apathetics? This deck could immediately be improved by putting Apathetic in, and you know, maybe it took seizing the advantage to help people realize that like board control, point and click. Maybe Apathetic was just too slow before.
On a 6? Oh, never punished.
Oh, this is some greedy lines, but I do want to talk again about that weaving, right? The attack foundation attack. So few characters got to do that, and all of the ones that do it really well are meta relevant. Jiro can do it very well. It's not as punishing. Momo did it really well. Kirishima does it really well. You know, it's the kind of thing where for a lot of players, if you were going to play that line out, it would have to be a lethal string to even bother attempting to play around that breaker.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, readying 4 foundations across your whole turn cycle, you know, twice per turn is just such a crazy set of words that allows you to play lines like an absolute animal.
And we get to shuffle cards out of our hand that we don't want. Like, the pure value behind that enhance is it can be really hard to deep dive into. There's so much happening.
So many facets and so many again, the layers, man. So many different layers of value when it comes to something like that. And it's just what really makes Kirishima stand so strong above the rest of the field is he just plays the game at a very different level than a lot of the characters.
And you know what makes the chaos symbol really strong right now?
What's that, my friend?
All these powerful 0 diffs.
For sure.
They're once per turn +1 stat, but the fact that we have one that gives speed and an additional keyword for more speed at midnight, and we have one that gives a damage, means that Dark Shadow Ruin has become so much more consistent outside of Tokoyami decks.
Absolutely. I think we first started really seeing this. We first started really seeing this go down when a lot of in the early days of Crimson Rampage, a lot of the Todoroki 2 decks on fire were playing Dark Shadow Ruin builds, and it was like, we can just make these characters be like budget Tokoyami decks.
Right.
But they also get to do a lot of unique things that Tokoyami doesn't get to, and you know, Midnight's showing a lot of that power right now. You know, Tokoyami cannot play Somnambulism.
Yeah,
Tokoyami cannot commit his rival's character.
This might actually be the fastest Dark Shadow Ruin I've ever seen in my life.
This thing's really fast, and I mean, this is super cool too, right? Like the in tandem of like Midnight Speed Pump and the damage pump of basic training, allowing us to achieve that speed and damage bonus to unlock the rest of our stats in our Dark Shadow Ruin. It's so cool. It's so cool to see these cards used outside of their initial intended applications from the design team.
Yeah, eat your heart out, Sugar Rush.
for sure. Eat your heart out, Sugar Rush. Like even without our Dark Shadow here, we're still able to unlock all of the facets of text on our Ruin, and that is just so cool. A real testament to the power and the intricacy of design space and deck building in this game, and also Pippa's skill as a deck builder, like you mentioned earlier.
We got the Kirishima response out early, and it looks like we're going to build out. That's a pretty fair trade, right? You go, here's the world's most unblockably fast attack. You know, Kirishima 2's not sporting the plus ultra very often, right?
No, definitely
Especially not main board. I know we are like post side at this point, but I don't think I've seen a Kirishima 2 block with a plus ultra, so this speed might just become purely overwhelming because Earth Symbol, what is it weak to? Has no speed hate.
That speed pump, yeah. I mean, that's like, you know, that's like the two facets of that trade-off, right? Is we made this super big poke, and we also made it very big damage, and then we achieved that unblockable state that we wanted to, but then we only got to deal half of the damage rounded down because of Kirishima's really powerful responsibility. So that's kind of the middle ground that we met, and there's our back alley haymakers coming back in.
Yeah, so at this point in the game, Kirishima went first, did a good healthy chunk of damage, but has been outbuilt by Midnight. Now, realistically, David has access to like 8 foundations, so we're closer to being tied, but Pippa has to feel pretty good about this board state.
For sure. I think the quality of the foundations, though, is going to be diminishing very shortly.
Yeah, we don't have release out.
So we've got one apathetic on board, right? And I'm peeking a naval laser beam in David Pena's hand, meaning we have 3 more apathetic uses. If we we committed one of them, that's face down. right? So
That could be a blowout.
It could be, yeah.
Getting to flip 4 foundations over like 2 turn cycles.
Absolutely.
That's massive.
Yeah, slowly destroying the quality of Pippa's stage is going to be very relevant. These are, like we were saying, these are the foundations that gave us so much trouble. Cool and Tough down there being a fairly new card as well, supporting one of the most powerful deadlocks in the game. The ability to ready one rival foundation to ready 2 of your foundations. Very, very strong stuff. We talked
like
about Earth's weakness to deadlock, right?
Yeah, it's like that old joke where you'd count out money and you go 1 for you, 2 for me.
1 for you, 2 for me.
3 for me, yeah.
Yeah. A soul for 2 souls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a fair price. Promise, fingers crossed. Great value bargain, right? But now, as David, if we do want to rush into the deadlock state head first, we can simply flip that Cool and Tough. And I think that's one of the biggest things that always confused me about the lack of apathetic in Kirishima lists, is that deck's biggest weakness was if you just charge into deadlock against it, it's really hard for it to fight you because it doesn't have a whole lot of deadlock punish. If they have an answer for pull no punches, like Irrefutable Force of Nature or something, or like an erase to seal it,
or your own apathetic, right?
or their own apathetic, you just have 0 deadlock pressure. Whereas apathetic is not a deadlock card, but it allows you to flip your opponent's deadlock foundations so that if you do have to enter that state with them, you only really have to be afraid of their attack deadlocks.
And speaking of deadlock flipping, we talked about the potential of a Proud Scion coming in. That's something else Proud Scion can do. If you're in deadlock, it not only cancels the ability, but flips that card so you can't activate it again. So I would love to see the Proud Scion come in. It looks like our 3-diff slot, though, is going to be suited for pull no punches. We're still rocking multiple pull no punches.
Yeah, which I totally agree with. Pull no punches, I mean, obviously, if they don't have the answer to it, can be one of the best deadlocks, right? When you're getting ready to go into that like 6-7 attack string, it represents like an insane amount of just raw stat value.
And you know that the Chaos symbol that you're playing against has very weak stun hate. It's like Wealthy Asper, or not Wealthy, First Day of Class, the Ochako DLC card. And all it really does is it readies itself, but it has to flip to do that. And Midnight loves that card because it's a free way to pay the cost on Midnight. So denying that through stun could be a huge game plan.
Huge block here by Pippa. I think probably one of the strongest, as cool as her attack chains have been. Pippa's blocking this whole round has been really off the charts. David has been attacking really fluently and very efficiently.
But he's doing it with 0 speed mids, which is the worst way to run into a Chaos deck. Yeah,
absolutely. As much as Kirishima did find his speed pump in set 3, we really need a lot to actually make it threatening when it comes to the numbers side of things. Against a character like Midnight. Also, we've seen David play 0 season the advantages so far, right? We've not seen him do any crazy season the advantage plays.
Have we seen any actions from the Earth deck at all? I haven't seen Seizing or Ready Get Set Go, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. And definitely haven't seen Ready Set Go. Definitely have not seen Ready Set Go.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of momentum though.
I'm genuinely surprised we haven't seen it more. We've seen it come in sided once in the Earth mirrors, but like
he might just be one of those players that's not into it. I know there are a lot of players that just simply aren't into that card. They just don't jive with it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where outside of turn 1, it's relatively just a cantrip. It just makes your deck like 1 card shorter, but at the risk of not passing that forecheck, right? Of checking a 3. So
Pippa may be dead here. We've just committed.
He does have a lot of gas
and put out she's put out her last card on the board to block with at 16 health. David's got only 4 ready foundations. Depending on his attacks, though, they could be resetting those foundations. We've also got a lot of momentum. Our naval laser represents 6, 7, 8, 9 damage with tight lipped, 10 damage with homage. There's a world, and then another damage with tight lipped, another damage with homage. I think we have a Kirishima usage still remaining as well. Yeah, 16 is not hard to count here with 2 attacks.
It looks like David is retroactively committing some foundations, though. I believe. I think we forgot Breaker.
I think we forgot Breaker 2.
Or it's either that or he's just planning out his turn. Okay, he's just planning out his turn, it looks like. It looked like he was tapping them. Am I wrong, though?
No, it looked like it. Yeah. I also thought he was planning. Then you suggested that, and I'm like, you might be right, Sam Tate.
Yeah.
You might be gaslighting me, Sam. You might be gaslighting me into thinking we forgot Breaker.
Well, I remember thinking the Breaker might be more impactful, and I think we have a lot of ready foundations, but Kirishima gets to replace them. It's hard
for sure. The fact that we still have 2 committed is why. That's where the Breaker came in, because Kirishima reset, jab reset.
It's so tough to slow Kirishima down. It is very difficult to prevent him from passing checks. Usually you have to actually exhaust his resources, but David has 3 attacks in hand. Those resources are ripe. It's going to come down to can he pass these checks and continue to put the damage on these.
Oh, even their jab.
Oh, well, that makes passing checks very easy.
That definitely does. Because now we can go ahead and we can homage for damage. We can tight lip flip our talented Baker for a damage because speed is irrelevant now. I think we've used Kirishima once, right? I think we've used him once.
I've only seen the one activate.
Yeah, we didn't use him on one of the moves. So this jab can do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. And then now we have 4 ready things, 5 ready things after Kirishima.
And we can't fail.
We can't fail another move.
Unless David just doesn't read the room, forgets that Pippa has nothing in hand.
Right.
This game is over. We're going to a game 3.
I'm fairly certain that we are going to a game 3 because this is going to get 2 damage. We can homage for a damage, tight lips and flip Baker for a damage. It's 9 damage. We need to deal 7 more. We play 1 more move, tight lip flip itself for a damage, homage for a damage. Yeah. The only move that I think wouldn't kill is ignited arrow, right? Because it would only get to 6. But we know we have the naval laser in hand.
Oh,
we know we have the naval laser in hand, which is just base lethal.
Yeah, gonna flip homage for tight lips?
I mean, as long as if we play the naval, we play the naval next. We flip 1 and it's 8 damage, right?
Oh, you can unflip it. That's true. Yeah, you can just unflip it. It's super over.
Yeah. If we didn't have the naval, like we just needed to not the only attack we couldn't play there was like ignited arrow for lethal. So I think we would have been
even we check a 3, we pass that and we just flip our foundations.
Yeah, we unflip everything. We flip for 2 damage and then that's it. Yeah, between Kirishima, there was no way we could not count to 16 with those 2 moves there.
So going first, Kirishima does manage to take the game, right? Pippa didn't get those releases down, didn't have the struggling, didn't have the chivalrous. So those apathetics got to tear away any chance Pippa had to kind of stay in this game. That's really the power of going first, is those apathetics are no longer too slow.
It's true.
Right?
It's
true. So it'll be very interesting to see if seizing the advantage becomes relevant in this game 3, because game 1, Midnight was in the driver's seat the whole time.
100%. Yeah. She Pippa got her stage so stabilized so quickly. Her really key defensive pieces like struggling with studies coming down. I mean, that was why we were able to execute such perfect blocks throughout all of game 1. Were cards like that. And not only do we not see those cards en masse, David saw a million apathetics. And so we were not able to sculpt that really good defensive stage that lets us survive David going in so hard and then punish him with our big crackback attack turns.
Yeah, it's this is such an interesting matchup because Pippa's got all the speed hate, but not the cards to block the massive volume. Kirishima can still tax that hand. If you go down to 2 blocks, yeah, you're almost guaranteed to block these 2 attacks, but Kirishima's got, 4 more after that?
Yep.
5 more? Getting that early poke in when, we had the extra stats from our stage was massive. Pippa went into that turn, under 20 health, and you're in the danger zone. You have to block more than twice against a deck that's going to recur all these cards, that's going to draw all these cards, it's going to get so many looks at different cards, sort of the same way Midnight does.
Yeah, I mean, Kirishima represents so much damage pump just on his face already. Once he's got things like homages on board, tight lips on board, any 2 attacks are going to count real big, real fast. At the end of the day, though, Pippa kind of did as much as she could there, defensively speaking. Even if we had more cards in hand, there was no way we were executing more blocks anyway with how committed out we were. So it was just David just getting a little too much damage in early, getting set up a little too fast, and getting a really solid aggro turn in.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what the turn 1 builds are in this game 3, because so far whoever has had the better turn 1 build, well, I mean going first too, right? But whoever has had just like a stellar turn 1 build has won.
Yeah, whoever can get that really solid stage manifested first is going to be in a massive lead. As crazy as these 2 decks attack strings are, Midnight gets very vulnerable if you're not throwing the right moves that she wants you to throw at you, and if she doesn't have those right defensive pieces. And it's really important for David's stage to offer him a lot of aggressive help to be able to punch through all of that speed reduction. Because with how much speed reduction Midnight has against this deck, it's really not a matter of how fast you can make your moves. They will never be fast enough. You just have to fight through every block and then start piling damage on.
You have to discard multiple cards to one with nature and have EX, as we saw in game 1, and even then
it was not enough. It did not get there.
Yeah, you waste so many resources just to... Oh, I love the sportsmanship here.
Oh, absolutely.
That's you know, I'm just gonna say I don't see it in other games. Very rarely.
Very rarely.
Know, it's always locked in. It's always me for the most part, unless you're literally up against a teammate. And so far, we've seen multiple players just extend that bro fist, put it out there for that game 3 to let them know. Look, at the end of the day, it's not about winning and losing. It's about being here at the first ever Pro Hero National.
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive historical event. You know, 10 years from now, when this is the #1 trading card game in the entire world, maybe even the galaxy if we've gotten to the moon and whatnot by then, we're going to look back on this Pro Hero Nationals event, this room of 310 people, this room now today of 32 people, and really think about how crazy it was so long ago. But for now, let's live in the moment, Sam Tate.
Well, I just got chills thinking about 10 years from now, looking back at an interview that I did with Keenan Meadows yesterday. After posting a video online of an interview Keenan Meadows did 10 years ago at another world championship.
Decade number 3. He's ready for decade number 3.
If I'm 40 years old and I'm doing another interview with Keenan Meadows, please put me in the ground.
Oh man, that's hilarious. You make me feel like a spring chicken, sir. You make me feel like a spring chicken, man. So this was a pretty nice build. So we have we have the fighting spirit coming in right here. The Ochaka 2 Foundation from Crimson Rampage. That is a card you do not see a lot. That is a very, very, very rarely seen card.
It responds and flips. I don't think I've ever actually seen this card sleeved up. I'm going to be honest with you. I've played it in like testing and things like that. I don't know if I've ever seen someone bring this to an event because
I've seen this card once in an event. We had an Ochako 3 in one of our RLEs that was playing this card, I think.
Yeah, and so after your rival plays a non-character ability that reduces the damage of an attack, cancel it. So that includes You're So Obvious. That includes cards that reset numbers because it can reduce it. That includes, of course, anything that gives a penalty, like a minus damage number.
Right.
So far, have we seen any of those cards from David Pena, though?
I don't think we have. Sam. So maybe Pippa is expecting something that we're not. I'm not sure.
Maybe we just don't have like a good side option, right? Like we don't side it out for anything specific.
It's true. Yeah, that could be true. We're going to see a second build turn from Pippa. I think we have to, given the quality of David's turn 1 build. A build 5 is very, very, very strong.
Numbers. So we're putting numbers in our stage again.
We are putting numbers in our stage again.
All of these cards except Fighting Spirit buff our attacks.
Yeah. Yeah. They all represent massive, massive, massive levels of damage right here.
Yeah, I gotta say though, Kirishima's looking pretty set up as well because that Apathetic is almost certainly going to be able to take out one of those One with Natures because that looks like the most present threat on the board. But
agreed. The big thing about One with Nature in multiple copies is there are rare instances where you're going to discard multiple cards for each one, but all you have to do is discard 1 card for one of them to proc the +1 damage on all of them. They will all see it. So even if you're not using multiple copies, the One with Nature that's sitting there still represents a free, if you will, +1 damage, right, on all of our moves.
But you know what's more free than that?
What's more free?
Stronger in Darkness. All you have to do is have your character committed, which we're down for. We're absolutely okay with that as Midnight.
All day, every day.
And so it might be the option to flip the Stronger in Darkness, even though One with Nature is definitely a more powerful card. The fact that it's more repeatable, it doesn't cost that card, that could be the answer, and I have no idea at this point if it is.
I think personally, I would definitely Apathetic the One with Nature because
Me too. I hate that card.
Even if they only have one,
that card kills me all the time.
It does the same thing as Stronger in Darkness in a sense, but also sometimes can do another +2 to our block mod if Pippa wants to double up. But as David Pena, we don't even have to pick because of our awesome card Seizing the Advantage. We are going to get to double flip and take out both One with Natures.
Yeah, you see the shift in Pippa's posture. That is the posture of a person who is about to have their 2 best foundations flipped.
Yep.
Someone who thought I'm safe because I have multiple copies out, no longer.
Yep. I mean, this was the real premier card of all of the Kirishima decks yesterday, and we're finally seeing David put it to really, really good use. And I mean, that's the power, right, of Seizing the Advantage. felt like as Peppa we were in a really good position, and then suddenly our advantage was seized, snatched, stolen right away from us as this card gave our move speed, built itself face down, flipped our best card. So many things going on with this card right now.
Small consolation though, for this Harden Chop, Kirishima didn't have any face downs already. So we don't have a committed face down yet to destroy and re-ready. So Wild Chop is typically a 4 difficulty card, we like to say. This time it's kind of not.
Absolutely.
We don't get to do that.
Yeah, we really wanted to check well on that. And by checking well, I mean checking a foundation so we could commit and flip our new training method and pick that foundation up and then destroy and replace it.
Exactly. We saw that play yesterday. It was a huge play when we had One with Nature down to not only fuel that from our hand, but also to get that free resource from Chop.
Absolutely. Yep. So there's the apathetic coming in to flip the others, and now
it's no longer a choice. If you get to flip both, you definitely hit the One with Natures.
Yeah, we were to take Jose's terminology. We were 2 with nature, and now we have no nature. We have no nature on our side. We are none with nature now.
Exactly. Only one of us gets to be one with nature.
Yeah. Another interesting thing on David's board here I'm looking at is the Forcing Surrender. We're playing a Dark Shadow deck. Get those things out of the card pool. I don't want to see them there. David does not want to see those things sitting there in the card pool. Buffing up all those ruins, not counting towards progressive, and just being very, very obnoxious.
And when we have to play around that breaker, we have to play that 1 diff, that 0 diff to play around it. Forcing Surrender, being able to kick it out can mean that our breaker against Kirishima, effectively useless sometimes.
Right, yeah.
It can absolutely not be the thing that saves you. After being the most powerful keyword, I think, for the first 2 sets, Breaker's finally kind of coming down as more resource management comes in, more things that can like cancel it, play around with it come in, and really as attacks just get stronger, more potent, like backed up by One with Nature, you can hit more efficiently, and so you need less attacks to kind of overwhelm your rival.
Yeah, a lot more decks are capable really of doing that weaving you were talking about, right? That's what we're still looking at, is all of that weaving going on.
That card pull dance.
Absolutely.
Like we saw in the first game, Pippa hit what, 3 attacks?
Yeah.
It was only they only needed 3 attacks to land, and against the Kirishima, that's absurd. It's absurd. We saw all the Kirishima games. It was, well, I'll play 3 attacks and hit you for 4. I'll play 3 attacks next turn and hit you for 3, and they would go back and forth. And Pippa said, "No, we're jamming life totals."
Yeah. Normally you have to chip away at this character like the tank that he is. But that's the power of some of these big, fat, massive chaos attacks, and the ability to make them so darn fast, like Midnight can. And really exploit the only weakness really remaining in the Earth symbol.
Yeah, so Pippa still has, 5 cards that pump stats, but 3 of them are only once per turn, right? And not having that One with Nature down has to make it feel like your attacks are nowhere near as potent.
Yeah, I think to really play the.
We'll just play 2. Oh,
holy cow! 2 with nature. We're 2 with nature again.
Okay, well, I need to find out who Pippa prays to, because I need to convert.
It was Jose. If you pray to Jose, he'll grant you all the copies of One with Nature. Only whenever you need them the most, though.
You must become 1 with Jose in a row.
You must become 1 with Jose.
And then I can become 2 with Nature.
Then you become 2 with Nature. Yeah, maybe even 3 with Nature. If you're truly a legend.
Let's point out how unfair it is that the Chaos deck is the one that's 1 with Nature, not the Earth deck. Earth is nature
How
itself.
Disrespectful.
Come on now.
How disrespectful, man.
This is going to be the kind of thing where if Pippa can OTK a Kirishima, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to actually lose my mind.
So down to lose my mind either way, man. But I think Pippa had to build there. The big thing about the crazy attack strings. Oh, I know the advantage, man.
Well, I guess if you have it, I'll have it too.
Yeah, my face when the advantage is seized.
Yeah,
my face when the advantage is seized, man. The big thing about like how these crazy cool attack strings Pippa wants to put out most of the time requires a whole lot of committal power because you're jamming a lot of 5 diff moves successively. So going in with like only like a 5-6 foundation stage, going in on those turns can be really punishing if the checks don't roll your way.
Yeah,
so I think Pippa's just trying to get her stage more stabilized. Numerically speaking, and also put her good ones back on stage as well before she really starts trying to go into David here.
Yeah, it's Man, this is such a hassling card. I'm going to call this card a hassle.
Ignited Arrow? Oh, it's a headache.
Because you're essentially free to just pump it, right? As long as you're not committing resources to it. All these, we saw Talented Baker, we saw Homage, all these free stats you can just kind of pile on. It becomes so much more punishing when you know that blocking this replaces it with an attack. It's not just if it's blocked, draw a card. It's if it's blocked, mill until I get an attack.
Yep.
Which, if you pay attention to the variance, right? I'm not really a numbers guy. I'm a vibes gamer myself, but typically after you've milled that attack off the top card of your deck, the likelihood that the next card you're going to check,
it's a lot lower.
Almost never going to be an attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it also has that hidden text of securing your check in a way. It's just a card that does a lot of things. Ignited Arrow is a card. One of my favorite videos that I put out for my Heroes Clash content is the top 10 cards, I think, across the whole set. And Ignited Arrow was pretty high up on my list, and a lot of people were like, that card? I haven't even looked twice at that card. And I was like, I think you should, because Ignited Arrow is a very, very cool card with a whole lot of hidden text on it.
The linchpin to Ignited Arrow is you have to be a deck that can truly pass a lot of checks, right? You have to be, like we see with these Chaos decks, it's usually like 3 massive haymakers, 3 dunks, if you will. Whereas these Earth decks are all about these strings. It's all about getting these resources back. So, adding that extra attack to your hand doesn't really mean anything if a Breaker 2 shuts you down.
For sure.
Breaker 2 doesn't affect Kirishima the way it does other characters.
It simply does not. Another nice thing about Ignited Arrow is it finds you. It's got some really nice keywords on it, such as Fury and Weapon, that have a lot of cool combo chains, very, very combo heavy keyword traits there, and fetching extra attacks to try and find the number you need to meet those keyword requirements is, again, more kind of cool hidden text of the card. Yeah. And then we see another apathetic coming down into David's stage, which is just crazy daisy.
Yeah, and our first enhance was not to one with nature, which I understand, and we probably won't really ever get to activate this, but, Indiscriminate Shock, typically not super great into It Can't Be Fixed decks.
Correct.
Typically not super great into Kirishima, and leading off with it makes me think that we're really trying to fish. We've been trying to scald, we've been trying to sculpt, and now we're using our character to sculpt a bit more. It'll be very interesting to see if Pippa can really take control of this game, because they've lost half their health. They went first, and they've had all of their one with natures, well, all but one, sniped. And we know if this gets flipped, all 4 are in the stage face down.
I mean, yeah. Like you said, Pippa went first, and they're being out damaged and outbuilt right now, and it's not a fantastic position. David's just been executing very, very beautiful low investment poke turns, and then just building and establishing a really strong stage. And we're just seeing, he's still at 27 health.
Oh, okay. So I talked about this earlier. He chooses to flip the Stronger in Darkness.
Okay.
The more free +1, because realistically, I guess, even through the 1/1 with nature, we can block twice.
Sure.
Right? We have 2 cards in our hand. We block twice. And then after that, it's Kirishima response all the way down. So I like that. I like that play a lot, because it is, both are most relevant going to be that +1 damage on this turn, I think, and Stronger Darkness being the more free one, probably going to be relevant if Pippa tries to go deep into this turn.
Yeah, we did discard 3, draw 3, so who knows what, we effectively have the range, numerically speaking, range wise, of a 9-card hand right now. So there could be some very, very crazy things going on within Pippa's capabilities.
Will we see a somnambulism, though?
I think that's the big thing. I think if we found a somnambulism in those other 3 cards, there's a decent likelihood that we might be able to put some real meaningful damage down this turn.
It would be kind of hilarious if Kirishima just elects to respond on this one, though. Kind of ruining the whole plan of tapping it down. But I don't think that's likely, especially if we're actually choosing to stun into this. It can't be fixed.
Yeah, which it seems like we are, which I'm pretty okay with. I think Kirishima having one more foundation going into their next turn.
He'll go into deadlock. That's a bait.
Potentially.
That's a bait. He's at 10, right? And if we're going into 11, now we've turned on the basic training stats.
Oh, that's very true. Very true. We do have basic
Well, I guess basic training is only speed. I thought basic training's deadlock was damage, but it's actually speed for the deadlock.
The deadlock is the speed.
I was going to say, we just replaced Stronger Darkness with the deadlock response.
It's easy to remember because basic training is damage, and easily excited is speed. Both 0 diffs giving one of those things once.
Basic training is also a little bit of a callback to an older Universes card, which it used to be like a 1 difficulty card that all it did was commit for +1 damage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very similar stats. It has a slightly. Most people played it for its block mod. It was one of those old cards where it was just statted super well. It was the tight-lipped of its day, really.
For sure, yeah. Tight-lipped is a beautifully statted card.
Yeah, it was just a very simple +1 block mod mid that you really didn't get on Foundations back then, so they gave it a very simple, elegant effect, and you see basic training now living up to that legacy, but with a potent deadlock to be paired with it.
Yeah, so there comes there's the low block from David's end now. Having to commit a couple cards for it just because of how not so great his block modifier was and how fast the 1.3 is. It somnambulism? Somnambulism? No.
It looks like, did we petty squabble that other Stronger in Darkness? Because it did get committed.
Yeah, I think that is what happened. Yeah, we discarded a card to do that, I think.
Yeah, so David getting a little extra review step essentially there, blocking out, staying at full. Pippa just spinning the wheels, trying to find something, not having anywhere near the explosive hands that they had in game one. Also teetering on the edge of deadlock, and we saw pull no punches as the deadlock threat that David is maining, and we gave him an extra foundation for nothing.
Yeah, we did. I don't feel super great about the position we're in as Pippa.
I was hoping for like some really hype backup Ice Storm, maybe a Command Pigeon Flock. You get a Friend of Animals, you turn that Friend of Animals into a momentum. There's a lot of potential, but it looks like Pippa just can't find the pieces.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because we're in a position now where, like you said, we're at less than 20 life. We're in the danger zone now. So Pippa has to make these really, really weak builds.
Yeah. We have to hold like 4 blocks a turn.
Yeah. We have to hold 4 blocks a turn. Otherwise, there's just a world where we're just daring David not to draw the attacks, right? If we build any more than that.
And you know what punishes you for trying to hold 4 blocks?
Harden
chop. Yep. It makes it tough. When you can sling 5-6 attacks and your rival has to spend 2 of them to block one of them, has to spend 2 cards to block one, there's no way they're blocking all those attacks.
No, there's just not. We do have our struggling with studies on board now, so we could have been a little more greedy with our build there, put a few more things on board. But as you said, we do have to keep deadlock in mind because scary things like if we build into deadlock without a way out of it, and David puts down like a pull no punches, we're just on a clock now. We're just on a clock.
Yeah, it's gonna be so tough to climb out of this hole. We have not dealt a single point of damage. We have resolved like a single attack. Our board has just gotten torn apart by seizing the advantage and apathetic.
I mean, David's board is he's just dancing around it. He's just dancing around it, man.
Yeah, we have comparably free stats from Homage. We have more control with Petty Squabble. Forcing Surrender is going to stop you from trying to gunk up the card pool with weird effects, and
we're opting to just take the hardened chop. I mean, I still think there's a world where we can lose this turn, but then also if David just builds here, man, he feels unbeatable now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's almost like no matter what, he has no punishment either way. There's almost no punishment for throwing these attacks out, especially an Ignited Arrow.
Yep.
It's going to replace itself.
That is the hard part here about not blocking that chop, is now we have to block Ignited Arrow. And the only difference now is like how many attacks did David draw? And this is one that says draw more, because there's no question that we're passing things practically infinitely, right?
Yeah, I think the writing's on the wall. All it really needs now is for David Pena to read it aloud, because we've got more attacks in hand. This is going to be lethal. We're going to get another attack off of it. Pippa's board is dwindling, and even with the speed hate from Midnight, we're now playing the 2 keyword attacks instead of the 4 keyword attacks. So these blocks are not being as free, even though, it looks like the Ignited Arrow is a completely free block at this point. It's negative speed, but you're fine with that. It's going to replace itself.
Exactly. Yeah. As we said, at this point, it's about quantity, not quality. Because
that hand tax.
Yeah, because with how low our health total is as Pippa, we just have to stop every move from here on out.
Yeah, David pretty much can't fail his checks to play attacks. Gonna get another attack.
Haymaker is like actually the best thing he could find there.
Right.
The best thing he could find there.
We have the momentum for the EX to counteract that speed. Mm-hmm. We have the stun to tax that board. I'm pretty sure, unless David really wants to play this conservative, because again, even if he builds out, he's in such a commanding position. I don't even think that's the wrong move.
He can go either way with it. He can really go either way with it. But again, like even if he plays a couple more moves and starts to check really bad, the odds of being like full punished to the point of lethality are just so low. He's just at such a big stage. Kirishima's going to let him re-ready things still a ton. It's just the efficiency of this deck is truly unmatched. Yeah, I think we're seeing a very, very clear example of why this deck is so represented in our top cuts today.
Yeah, when David first found out about the Nats announcement, he was upset because he didn't think he could attend. He didn't think he was going to make it, and he knew this was his last chance to get some points at the very worst, and it was a great chance to not worry about the points, right? You can just make top 8, get that ticket to Worlds, and it looks like he's going to, reap all the benefits of making it out to the Pro Hero National.
Yeah, David is looking to be in a really good spot here, looking to pilot his way. As long as he just kind of maintains the control he has over this game state, I think the odds are not looking good for Pippa to be able to navigate her way out of it. I think we're very much in the realm of waiting for David to make mistakes.
Right, there is a chance that if Pippa can block the Haymaker at 4 speed with like a +1 block, and then manage to put a partial with another +1 on a naval laser beam, but that naval laser beam is going to be 5 speed as well.
Yeah,
we're going to have to block.
We really have to break her to block on this Haymaker, I think.
The struggling with studies could be massive here to clear our card pool just for that -1 speed, because David doesn't have the most threatening attacks. Like it looks really good, the position he's in, but if the only attacks in his hand are Haymaker, naval laser beam, they are both mid. Neither is the fastest thing in the world, even with the EX, but the play might be play naval laser beam, unflip those apathetics.
Also could totally do that, and then just say there's no world you kill me next turn without your one with nature, without your stronger in darkness, right?
Right. Well, yeah, and you'll force the struggling with studies, one of our best defensive tools, to protect one of those cards if you want to attack. Yeah,
and
I don't hate this at all.
Safe build. Yeah, no, I absolutely have no qualms with this. I think David's in a great position here, and he can just continue to leverage that.
There's actually no reason to risk it if you don't have guaranteed, right? If you know that Midnight can force you to spend your momentum resource for this turn, and then they still have a chance to block on a 6 with a +1, and then the naval laser beam, they can struggling with studies, pick it up the mid and block on a 6 with a +1 again, right? Like that's 2 5 checks. Pippa lives.
Yeah,
and you probably committed some resources. So I think David learned his mistake from game 1, is going to stay in the driver's seat, and it looks like he was thinking about playing a You're So Obvious and realized that the fighting spirit just cancels it. Might as well hold the low block for indiscriminate.
Yeah. Indiscriminate catching you with your pants down is definitely one of like Pippa's only ways to even up the life totals in this game, I think.
And a big thing about pulling back now and waiting till next turn.
What does Pippa do?
EX2.
Yeah.
We have 8 speed from EX2. Oh, this is what Pippa does.
We are beginning.
Twisting Azure Inferno. This is something I didn't see on the stream all day yesterday.
If we've got to summon Dark Shadow, we've got to summon Dark Shadow. Things can start getting crazy here.
We've also got the +3 low, the evil versus good. I almost said good versus evil, but the evil versus
enough history
good.
lessons, Sam Tate.
Well, it's more natural, I think, to say good versus evil, but the art would look weird if it was Yeah, but so we have other actions in the deck as well that do very similar things. So is that was that Summon Dark Shadow we discarded? No way, right?
I guess if we have
multiple,
one,
yeah. I guess if we have multiple. And we needed attacks instead of the one action.
Yeah.
Interesting here.
I mean, that makes sense. You want to reach for more actions.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to reach for more attacks.
Summon Dark Shadow with no attacks to play with it doesn't do anything.
Exactly.
So, and if we still had the one, it's fine. But forcing surrender kicks it.
It's going to get out of the card pool. So, unfortunately, we will not be obtaining our bonus stats off of it for the future of this turn. However, our Twisting Azure has seen it get played, has pumped it up, and we're now able to activate that extremely powerful Twisting Azure Inferno enhance, -1 to all our rivals' checks, +1 to all our checks.
Jokes on David Pena, though, because now if we check a 3, we still pass our 5 diff.
This is very true. This is
we don't
very,
have to commit
true.
one.
This is very, very true.
I don't think he cares with 8 million cards in his stage.
No, I don't think he does either. I think he's much more worried about that +1/+1 going away.
And the squabble comes down to hit stronger in darkness. Says, no, ma'am. You don't get to just get free stats against me. You'll have to use that basic training deadlock if you want that.
Yep.
Very, very interesting stuff here. It's not impossible.
It's not.
It's basically impossible, but it's not impossible to deal 27 this turn to Kirishima.
Yeah, I think the big thing is if we find somnambulism, right?
We take this one completely on the chin, which I'm a little surprised at, but
it's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Ooh, there it is.
Here it is.
Okay, there's
and we check the 3, but it passes because we cleared the summon.
Right.
This could matter. If Pippa taps completely out to win the game on this turn, that forcing surrender, actually a mistake.
This could be big. This could be big. This is our almighty equalizer, right? This is our almighty equalizer. We're going to get to draw 2, discard 2 as well, I believe. Does Twisting Azure have 3 keywords? I know it's got range.
Oh, I think Pippa might have missed a response on basic training, though, because they were so happy to announce that enhance.
Yeah.
Because I don't see any dice next to it. The basic training is the response speed, and I believe we saw Pippa turn it over to show that we used the once per turn on it.
Yeah.
But we don't have any dice next to it, so possibly a small minor mistake.
Minor misplay there,
But you're down to just commit Kirishima here, I think. Very interesting here. We had a very fast enhanced step, and the breaker 2 coming down. Gotta be
very,
super rough.
very, very fast enhanced step. Yeah, surprisingly enough.
And so that block was almost effectively on a 7. We're gonna just power through the breaker.
Checking a 6 with Twisting Azure, a 4 with breaker on our 7. So we've only got to commit 3 things for this. So it's not.
And now we get the bonus numbers.
And I think now we're just gonna hope to find David without low blocks. I think that's our hope now.
We did watch David discard a low block earlier to the petty squabble, but that's only because he has another one.
Very true. Very true. Although, to be fair, he might have discarded low blocks, not worried about indiscriminate shock as much because he has his Kirishima response, right? That was before he had lost his
before he went
response.
to sleep.
Before he went to sleep. Before we put that man to sleep.
Yep. So we're going to give this an additional keyword along with the speed with Easily Excited, which, of course, matters a lot for Midnight.
Right.
Are we going to discard with this one with Nature? Can we force it through? Can we guarantee that it's unblockable? Plus, on top of that, I don't believe the Ursula has any +1 lows. I believe their best low block is Hardened Frenzy. And Forcing Surrender at +2.
Merciless Rush is a +1 low, I believe.
If David Pena is playing Merciless Rush, it's only because of Ochako.
For sure. Yeah, no, there is not an attack in David's deck that is that card. Foundation-wise, yeah, I don't believe there's a +1 low on their foundation base. So we are running out of resources, though. It looks like Pippa can only pass maybe one more 4 check if we check bad, a 5 check only if we check good. So I think if we have another indiscriminate shock and can roll the 5 check. Because the important thing is we need to not commit it. Because if we check a 3, we actually check a 4. We can commit our 4 foundations and pass it. But I think we need to put the speed on it with Midnight. So we have to not check bad. And then if we check a 5 instead, we get to leave up 1 foundation to commit with Midnight and our 1 with Nature, representing like +5 speed on our move.
He's gonna take it.
So if we can roll another 1.3
Is this
here,
it? Is this the winning? It's another one.
No, the 2 check.
Of all the checks,
which is actually a 3. But that still doesn't let us pass it. Oh my gosh.
The 2 check giveth and the 2 check taketh away. That turn was only possible because of the somnambulism. That glimmer of hope was only there because of the 2 check in our deck. And at the moment when we needed it most, it abandoned us.
The somnambulism giveth and the somnambulism taketh.
And you have to believe if that's a 5 check, Pippa just wins on the spot.
On the spot. The round is over if that's a 5 check. Because if we couldn't block the 8 speed indiscriminate one time, we weren't blocking it a second time.
Correct.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie, I was so hyped for that line.
I was ready.
We spent the whole game watching Pippa get chipped away at, get knocked down, have everything taken away from them, be denied every resource in their stage almost, be denied the resources in their hand practically. And now David Pena just has pure gasoline in hand, has an overwhelming board advantage. You know, Pippa went for it. They took the only shot that they had.
That was the shot. That was the shot.
Literally a foundation short.
Yeah, I think Pippa did everything correct there to go in on that turn. Those were the lines that she had to take.
Even on a 3, right? Even on a 3, we tap everything. We still have a chance that he's just not gripping the low.
Yeah.
Which we know he had, but at the same time, like, you can still at least write it out for the chance.
Yep.
And now it's pretty cut and dry.
Things are looking grim right now. I'm pretty sure this is just already unblockable after we EX dump it.
Yeah, one. No,
and it just is 6 damage.
Pippa has one card in hand. They're just not scooping because why would you?
Yeah,
you know.
No, you can't scoop on stream.
You gotta wait for him to show he's got the second one. And this one is probably just lethal with the EX, unless that last card is literally plus ultra.
Yeah, I think if you completely EX this one and the round is gonna come to a very, very thrilling close.
Yeah, oh man,
edge of my seat.
Yeah, we both were about to jump up. We were both actually about to jump out of our seats.
Both of us sitting there going, second 1.3, second 1.3, second 1.3.
Oh, and there's a home run comet.
Wow, there's a home run comet.
Interesting. So if we played the comet, we pass it, but
we would have had to commit everything to pass it.
Still, right. So it still doesn't get speed.
It was going to be very blockable. Yep. We needed to check a 5 to be able to leave up 1 with nature and any founder. Actually, just leave up 1 with nature because we can 1 with nature and then commit the 1 with nature for the speed.
Right.
Yeah, either way, it would have worked out in that favor. But that's only in the world where we check that 5, and sadly, that is just not what the game presented. Just always coming down to the checks. That is something that we say time and time again about the highest competitive level of play in this game. When both players are at such high levels of competitive skill, the only equalizing factor that it's really going to come down to is those checks. The minor amounts of RNG that do exist in this game are finally going to circle back around, and they're going to be what tip that scale, that perfectly matched scale of 2 amazing players of our game, finally tipping it. Just one singular grain of salt that 2 check was, putting it all the way back into David's favor, allowing him to take full advantage of his beautiful, exquisite play and be the victor of the round.
Imagine how crazy it would have been if we could have kept that second summon Dark Shadow. If we could have enhanced with it and blow the 2 check, we can fail that. Archon doesn't end on an enhance, only on a form, or that becomes a 6 check with the +1 from Twisting Azure Inferno and the +3 from Summon Dark Shadow. So many crazy little things.
So much potential.
But Pippa had to dig. Pippa had to go that turn. They had to find the answers, and they found them in their hand, just not off the top of their deck.
Nope. A day late and just a measly $1 short.
One check short.
Either way, what an exciting and thrilling match. A absolutely fantastic way to start the day, regardless of the end result. Super exciting games to commentate, super exciting games to watch. Both players of this high skill level putting on a fantastic show, but unfortunately, only one of them could remain on top, and that was David Pena. So guys, if you give us a quick little break, we're going to grab said David Pena and bring him down for a short little interview on how he piloted his way towards victory in that game. Stay tuned, guys. Welcome back, guys. Sorry for the little wait there. Our man David Pena here had some very exciting phone calls to make, hot off the heels of his super awesome victory, man. David, congrats, dude. How are you feeling, bro?
I feel my heart's still racing, honestly.
Yeah.
I feel that was intense.
It's the scariest of games when you're like, I could lose here.
Yep.
It's just down to what they do. Those are the scariest ones.
There was the petty squabble was like the clear mistake, right? What am I doing? all her attacks were huge. I should have just petty with the deadlock enhance.
Absolutely.
Right? I just completely missed that and whiffed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it was a great match.
I definitely like. I mean, obviously, the most exciting game we've seen today. First game we've seen today.
Love it.
But I think, anyone in the future rounds for our stream has a really tough shoes to fill after the thrilling nature of that match. So, David, let's talk about you for a second, though, man. You being known as like the Ochako 2 master, right, for so much of the previous competitive seasons, and now since the Toronto event, really shifting towards Kirishima. What kind of inspired that, and how do you feel about that character as opposed to what you were playing before? Tell me what's in your mind with those swaps.
Yeah, I think everyone knows right now Kirishima 2 is it's like a safe pick. It's very comfortable.
Absolutely.
I got advice from a player. It was actually Corey Aguilard. Yeah, he was like, play something that's consistent because you're a good player. So I kind of took that advice and tried to apply my skill. But not only for that, it was just more to learn Kirishima, because when I was playing Ochako 2 depth into it, it would be 50-50 or maybe 60-40 them. So it really allowed me to learn the character and really allowed me to be comfortable with it. And then while I was doing that, it kind of just stuck. I was like, wow, this is actually really strong. So I kind of just stuck with it. But I still have a lot of love for Ochako 2. I want to say very likely might make a comeback here very soon.
Set 3, man. Set 3. The Grimace. The Grimace, bro. The Grimace.
But I don't want to. All right. This is for you, chat. Waylay. Waylay is a card.
Waylay is a card, man. Yeah.
Waylay is a mind games card. If you play it correctly, you can put your opponent in really tough situations. So
yeah, for sure. But I do understand the Kirishima pick. Especially I really like what you said about your skill set. Right, it's a character that lets you bring a lot more agency based on your skill level into the matchup, and you're a very, very good player. So it all really goes in line. Right.
Yeah, people underestimate the intricacies of it, right? Like even when you're building face on cards, like, all right, I'm doing stuff because maybe I get a naval laser beam later. The obvious things are killing foundations out of zeros for back alley, like things like that. Like, and one of the games I think I even reviewed a 0 just because in case I brought back alley, right? So it's really planning ahead and trying to be ahead. So once you get used to it, it's pretty autopilot, right? If you have a lot of reps, you'll learn it. But it's definitely making sure you make the right choices. I always look at my opponent's discard pile for their attacks, and it's just always trying to think a step ahead.
Speaking of your opponent there, did you have any experience whatsoever going into the Midnight matchup, recognizing the power of somnambulism against your character?
So I played a Midnight in Swiss, and I won pretty... I wasn't very fearful of it. Pippa just showed me the way.
Pippa's build is a whole different beast.
Unbelievable. I can't believe the damage. I was at 27 HP, and I'm just like, how? Like, I'm really gonna lose. Even on the last attack, if she checked the 5, she would have been able to pump it up. But yeah, no, I have tremendous respect for Midnight. I have tremendous respect for Pippa. I've played her on stream before in Vegas, actually. When she was All Might. That was I
do remember casting that round. That was very fun. Yeah,
very intense match. But yeah, she's definitely a great predator, and it's a definitely great deck. Right pilot, it can go far.
It's definitely going to be one of the weirdest ones you have today, because going forward, you're going to be fighting a lot more of yourself. And you're looking in the mirror for a lot more of these future matchups. I think
my next match is a bird, so we'll see how I do.
Yeah, I hope you're ready for that, man. It's going to be very exciting.
Great opponent I hear.
All right. Well, before I send you off to that matchup, one last thing is, do you have any shout-outs you want to give, my friend?
Yeah, shout-outs. Shout out my wife, Marie, Asia, of course, my brother, Saul, my team, Team Salem, Rochester guys, Unfussed Stuff guys, the King's Courts games. Man, I should have wrote a list. There's so many people. everyone that I've met here, Matt, Frank, David, Tom, like everyone that had interaction with me, even you guys are doing a great job streaming and really bringing this to life. Like, what a fantastic event. Nothing but joy and happiness I have here, because for me, historically, card games are my thing, and being able to play competitively and you guys being able to organize all this stuff it's amazing. It brings me so much joy to life.
Thank you. I think we can all say we feel very, very similar to David, especially about you as a player and as a friend as well. There you have it, guys. David Pena with the spirit of competitive MHA CCG right there, and the spirit and joy of the event. Thanks so much for coming on, David. It's always great to have you here. Definitely not your first time in the box with me.
Yeah,
but
hopefully I'll be back.
Hopefully you'll be back, my friend. A joy as always, nonetheless. I'm going to let you get to your next round, sir, because we have a lot of really, really cool stuff down the pipeline today, and we're going to get to all of that very shortly. Thanks so much for staying tuned, guys. We have an exciting round coming up next. Do not go anywhere.
Bye, guys.